What's up, family? Thank you for tuning in to the Dream Nation podcast. My name is Casanova. I'll be your host, and I'm excited to be bringing to you entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and trailblazers from around the world. Stay locked in with us because we're about to go on a journey that will change your life. What's up, Dream Builder? We are back again, and we have another episode that I'm super excited to bring to you because today we're going to talk all about how can you turn your passion, whatever your dream is, into a profitable business that gets you, as my sister Isis Brianna would say, the coin, right? The bags. So without further ado, please help me in welcoming her to the show. And Isis, please help me in welcoming Dream Nation into your world.
Well, thank you for having me, Dream Nation. I hope that this whole conversation just gives you a bunch of gems and knowledge and just uplifts you, because that's what I'm here for.
That's exactly what we're going to do today. So I always love to start it off, and my way is to compare entrepreneurs, us, as superheroes, or two superheroes. And the reason being is because we're flying around the world, we're putting on our cape, and we're trying to solve some of the world's biggest problems. And I know that that's what you've been doing through all of the content that you've put out. But
Yes.
the way that I say this is, a lot of the times when we just see social media, we see these people as superheroes, right? We admire them, we're inspired by them. And in your case, it would be that superwoman. But a lot of the times we don't know behind the scenes, who is that, what I would say, Lois Lane. So for anybody who just knows Isis Brianna, on the surface level, offline, tell us, who is that Lois Lane of Isis Brianna?
Well, it's so funny you say superhero or superwoman, because I've always said I don't believe there's ever been a superhero that wasn't born out of pain, or something of the sort. And the story that really brings me to social media and business and all that was really, a story of hurt that I have turned into, I think, something that could just help other people. So I want to give a little bit of background of why I even like coaching, why I'm in this space. Everybody has their reasons to be a business coach. For me, there is just something about seeing a Black successful family. Like, there is something about seeing a husband and wife, or whatever you're choosing, and a child who is loved and brought up in a home. And I started to realize, and I don't know if it was me going through education, because I started off as a teacher and I went through that program. I realized every time I really got to talk to parents and I talked about their divorce, and parents would tell you the tea. Most of them got divorced over something that had to do with money, or anything of the sort. And I started just like thinking, wow, that's insane. And I started to take like inventory of my past life and looking where I got to where I am today. And I've always had, things that I knew built me up. And so, for example, I have went through, I like to say I survived sexual trauma. I was raped, I was molested. That led to a lot of different things within myself, trust issues. And I mean trust within myself. Like I went through years of thinking, how could I trust myself to make decisions if I was the same person who put myself in situations for that to happen to? And it took a lot of therapy, and it took a lot of things. But I also went back and realized the situations that I was in, starting with molestation. I went all the way back and realized, okay, I was there because truthfully, we were broke. We were broke as hell. And my mom, put us with the family member that was the cheapest and who could babysit us, and it wasn't always the best choice. And I started to look and think, dang, there are a lot of decisions that, and I don't blame her at all, but there's a lot of decisions that she had to make that were tough because we didn't have the money. And all of that, I feel like, made me just get a new glance on money. Every little piece of my life I've looked back to, and I was like, dang, a lot of it has come down to the fact of the lack thereof of money. And so a lot of people look at money like, oh, this, this thing that people just want to spend. I look at it as freedom.
Right.
Family is the freedom too. I mean, no life is perfect at all. No, everyone's still going to have their trauma and their issues and their loss. But I have realized when I have the finances, and when families have the finances, they fight through a lot more things. So the person behind, I'm rambling, but the
No,
person
it's
behind the
good.
cape, the person behind the cape is the person who realized that when used correctly, money can really change some things. And I wanted people to see that for themselves. I don't want people to look at money and think, oh, I can just have hundreds of thousands of dollars. I want them to look and say, I can have more time with my kids. I can have better schools for them. I can have, give them a chance that I never got. I'm gonna cry. I'm already crying. I'm
No,
5 minutes.
no, it's all good. We're here for you, and I'm sure somebody is super impacted.
But yeah, so that's my purpose behind everything I do, is making sure as much as I can that I'm equipping women and men, specifically Black women and men, with the tools that they need and the finances they need to give their family and their lives the fight that they deserve. So
I absolutely love it. Obviously, I always say, your experiences create your expertise, right? And we all go through some type of trauma. And in our lives, like, that trauma does not need to be diminished, right? Like, that trauma is something that it can build you up. And at the same time, it can make you stronger than you ever thought that you were if you just acknowledge it. And
yes.
so right now, I think that that's super relevant because a lot of people are going through trauma, whether they, unexpectedly lost a family member to COVID, or a best friend to COVID, or something like that, or they got laid off. And so my thing to you is, you said it took a lot of therapy. First off, when you decided that, you weren't going to be a victim, what was the turning point for you? Was it going to church? Was it a family member that says, listen, you got to snap out of it? What was it for you that allowed you to say, nah, this ain't my final destination?
So the crazy thing is, this is probably the first year that I've talked about any of my trauma publicly. I would say, I remember I started being molested, I want to say age 4. And I just kept it silent until 2017, I
No,
think.
why? If you, I hate to even, but did you feel like you were going to be punished,
No, no,
or?
no. The funny thing is, I've always been, or I always say this, and I wonder if I do it to myself. I've always been the one that keeps it together. And and I love my siblings, but my brother is a wild child, and my sister is an emotional being. And I was like, what? Let me just be that one child that doesn't give my mom the tears at night. And it is so funny because I'm such an empath, and a lot of times to my own default. And I remember when I almost told my mom, and she knows now. But when I almost told her years ago, I was thinking, she's gonna think it's her fault. And I don't want her to think that. And I can handle this myself. And so I just kept it. And fine. I would say I was doing fine. And then I found the Lord again on my own. I've always gone to church, but in college around 2015, 2016, I got really deep into the church again. And I remember it was just a sense of community that I had. And I started going to church with the Line sister too. So and I'm an AKA, so we had this big sleepover together one night. And I can't remember how the conversation came up. And one of she just said it so casually. She's like, yeah, I remember when I was molested. And I just was like, whoa, did somebody just say that out loud? And I just can't remember the feeling of safety that came over me just to say it. And I was like, yeah, me too. That's all I said. And I bust out crying, and the whole room was like, what's happening? And we're hugging and crying. But in that moment, I just felt empowered. And I think it was because me realizing this whole time, I thought it was just me, but sitting in a room with people who loved me and saying, no, this happened to me too. And, you're not crazy. You're not, because sometimes I would think back, like, did this actually happen? Because I'm not talking about it.
Right.
And, yeah. So, in that moment, I realized just the power of support. And I knew I've always been that person. Like, when something feels good to me, I want to give it to somebody else. And so the funny thing is, I actually started, I did not have an Instagram until the end of 2018. And I started it because I was like, I am going to do this. I'm going to tell my story. And I don't know why. I looked up the number of sales you have to have a New York Times bestseller. And it was 20,000 purchases, I think, in like the first week. And I was assuming if you had 20,000 followers, you get 20,000 purchases. So I said, I'm gonna get 20,000 followers, and I'm gonna get my book, and I'm gonna be a New York Times bestseller, and I'm gonna help so many people. And that did not happen. The book is not written. I don't know if that's something I want to do anymore, but I'm glad that it brought me to Instagram.
No, I heard the first thing that I really heard you say was community, right? And you could tell that even if anybody looks at your Instagram account, how big community has been for you, and how your message is so defined, and you have so much clarity around, trying to bring that same inspiration to somebody who might not know their path, their journey, which is a great transition, because I feel like you decided, hey, I'm going to tell my story. But how were you able to get over the fact that not only am I coming from trauma, but at the same time, who's going to want to hear my story? Because I feel like that's where a lot of people get stuck at. They do have trauma, but they're like, I don't know. Everybody has trauma. What makes me think that my story is even relevant? How were you able to overcome that?
I look at it a little bit differently. I know I have clients who tell me all the time that's their biggest thing. Like, no one's gonna really want to hear about my childhood or what I did at 5, and but I've always looked at it as really obedience. Like, I felt like once I have something in my heart, and I always say this, and people are like, well, you shouldn't say that. But I feel like it's so disrespectful to God when he gives you something and you don't use it. Like, I feel like it's literally like your parents, like, giving you something, say, hey, go do this for me. And you're like, no. I don't know about you, but my mama would have.
Rings is turning around.
And so, I've always operated from the understanding that if God gave me something on my heart, then somebody needs it. Because I don't feel like he just gives us something just for us. He wants us to be people who are relational and building community and glorifying him together. So, but I use that too. Like, I understand that everybody can just switch that on and think, you know what, God gave me this, I'm just going to talk about it, and whoever it's for will find it. But that's why I like to use that in my message too, and talk to people and let them know and teach them it's really not that big of a deal. God said do it. So honestly, that wasn't something I really had to overcome. I just hop forward all the time.
Just hop forward. So now, I guess another transition into this is you've been able to become one of the emerging and top business coaches through social media, right? Anybody who finds your stuff, you give away so much game through tools, so out of everything that you could have did, and why I think this is relevant is because you came from a world where it felt like you didn't have a lot of security. So your only security was to stay to yourself until you found some friends that you really knew you could trust because they had a similar past to where you had. Now, you decide out of all things that you could have done to jump into entrepreneurship where there's no security. Talk to me about how was that transition?
Well, it was a mix. It was a mix of fear for me, but almost like it'll work out, because I was blessed enough to have 2 people in my life who were entrepreneurs, and who are, I say were because my granddad was one. He passed away this past summer, and he's always owned an oil company. He's in the north. They use oil for heat, all that good stuff. And and my dad, he's actually in real estate. So, and he owns his own like tire companies. My dad is what we would call the serial entrepreneur. He just loves entrepreneurship. It's not like a passion to do different things. He just loves the passion of entrepreneurship.
Right.
I've never seen him fail, and he has never had a job, and he is wealthy. And so, but my mom, she's a nurse, and she's more of how I used to be. Like, I'm gonna do what works. I'm gonna stick right here. But I think honestly, just seeing my dad not fail made it almost like my dad always just gives me the terminology of it won't kill you, and what's the worst that can happen. And I truly feel that way. Like, if I were to hop out into entrepreneurship and I fail, then I go back to work. And I had a job that I love too, as long as I'm happy. So entrepreneurship, I will say, is a different beast than than I
Right.
planned for it to be. A lot of people, they leave their job because they want less hours. They say if you love what you do, you'll probably work less. Child, you work more because you pour more energy into it. You want to
This
show
is your
up.
baby. It
What
has
is
to
your
be.
baby? It's your child. You're trying to raise it. It's different. It is different. But yeah, it was. And I will say too, I don't think it was a big jump for me because I am such a planner when it comes to my money. I hate being out on my behind. So I was starting to plan and save and all of that while I still had my job. So for me to go
Mm.
into entrepreneurship, I had what I would consider a pretty nice cushion to do whatever I wanted to do for at
And what
least.
was that? Like 3 months, 6 months? Like how long did you give yourself before you were gonna
I
go back?
It's so funny. My old coworkers would tell you the first, because I was a kindergarten teacher, from the first day of school, I would say, "Y'all won't see me next year." And it was my first year at the school, so everybody was like, "Who is this girl thinking she's just better than?"
Right.
I told them like this was it. Yeah, because I taught at another school in Atlanta and I loved it. But my first day there, I got punched in the face, and I was like, "Oh, this is not what I thought
By
it
a
was."
kindergartner or by another
I
teacher?
had kindergarten, but he could have been a grown man the way he hit me.
He had been lifting weights.
He was in the gym. He was. Oh man, but so yeah, so I officially decided. Let me see. So I quit my job around. I would say I think it was March. I officially decided. No, I remember the day I decided. It was October. It was October the day I decided I was going to quit for real. September is when I started selling online, and I did have what I would consider a big launch back then. It was $10,000. I was selling presets, and I made that in a month. So for a teacher's salary, I was like, "Ooh, I'm doing it big." But I was like, you know what? This is still going to keep my job. October, I went to Cuba and I took my sick days. I'm a very big believer in taking every day that's in my contract. So I took my sick days with my teammate who was across the hall from me, my friend, and we got back and it was just like the culture of the school, it was just depressing. Like everybody's so used to sticking to the status quo and why would y'all take sick days when you're not sick? And the principal's looking down on us like I know y'all were on vacation. And I was just like, I don't need this. I want to enjoy my life. I want to go to Cuba
Right.
for 4 days and not have to think about, apologizing to people. And I remember that was like the time where I was like, no, this is it. I have got to go. And so I started teaching presets more because I realized
And
the more.
explain to people what are presets for anybody who's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what's a preset?
So presets, and I use Lightroom presets. They're basically filters. It's a very millennial thing. Let me tell you that. Millennial Gen Z, I will say that. It's a preset. It's a filter that you can throw on your pictures to make them look good. So
Mm.
most people don't care about that. Us young kids do.
Right.
So
Well, I mean, I think what the filters came big in Snapchat and then obviously
yes,
Instagram.
yes,
So you
yeah.
was creating those so people could have more custom ones.
Yes, and I didn't know that you could sell them. I was literally just playing in Lightroom again. I had just gotten on Instagram late 2018. This is still early 2019. So my best friend was like, "Your pictures look dusty. You need to do better." And I'm like, "I don't know nothing about a camera." And so I get on the app and I'm like editing pictures, and I realize you can save the edit. So I saved it and I was like, "Oh, I can slap this on every picture each time." And it wasn't until somebody DM'd me, because I was just sending them to people for free. And somebody DM'd me and said, "How much are your presets?" And I said, "How much?" Like again, it was not in the mindset of selling them.
Right.
So I go on YouTube and I'm like presets, and I'm looking up, I'm Googling how many much people are selling them for. And I'm seeing that people are selling like one filter for like $25. So I texted her back, DM'd her back, and I said, "Well, it's $25 if you want one of them, and then if you want me to make a custom package for you, like one just for you, it'll be 100 for three." And she paid me $100. And I was
Mm.
like, "What?" So yeah. So anywho, I went into I stepped back from creating them, and I put out a course to teach people how to make it themselves. And that's
And
when
where
I
did you? So that's a hack right there. But where did you learn that from? Like, were you a part of a mastermind? Did you have a coach at this time? How did you learn, like, nah, let's not keep creating? Because a lot of people, they would have just tried to find any and everybody who would pay three, 400.
Yes. Okay. I think I get it from my dad. I am proudly lazy. Some people use lazy they're talking about you. No, you call me lazy and I appreciate it. I don't like to work. And when I started getting like people like DMing me like, oh, Isis does presets, let me DM her. They were taking some time out of my day. I'm still teaching. I got to come home and make y'all some presets. I was
Right.
like, this is not it. This is not it. And so I was talking to and I say I got it from my dad because my dad is like, his life, I swear, I think he travels 3 weeks out of a month. It's ridiculous in a beautiful way. And so I was telling him, I was like, man, I'm sick of this. I don't even want to do this no more. And he was like, there's no way you can just teach them how to do it themselves. And I was like, I guess I could. And so I actually, like, before I even created a course, I just sold a tutorial. Again, I didn't know about putting stuff together. I literally did a screen recording and I said to somebody, you cash at me this $100, I send you the screen recording. and I just did that and I was sending people screen recordings for a while until I realized somebody messaged me and was like, oh, you should just make this into a full course and put it on your site so we don't have to DM. And I was like, okay. And yeah.
Wow. No, I love it. And that just goes to show, if you have some type of a passion, you have anything that you're good at, right? Don't do it for free. But at the same time, how can you scale it? And maybe you could package it in some type of way, and then you could sell it and it'll continuously sell. Now,
Yes.
for you, where did coaching come in though? Because now it seems like that, you've been coaching and telling people a lot of things, you could see from social media. Why did you decide to get away from more packaging, just different types of products, and then selling it, and to get into coaching, which now gets back into your time?
So I will say I did not choose coaching. Coaching chose me. I actually had never called myself a business coach until I started doing speaking engagements and clients would shout me out and say, oh, my business coach, this and that. And I was like, is that what I am? But that came about because, again, I guess it's, 2 years ago now. I was selling the courses. People had already seen my success from selling presets. Again, the first launch was like $10,000. After that, I think it was like $8,000. And then like consistently, it was like $5,000 a month, still more than my salary. And I was sharing that because at the time my page was small. I had like 2,000 followers. Most of them were friends. And so, I was like, oh, y'all, you need to have some kind of side hustle. That was my thing. I just wanted to help people. I was like, y'all need to have a side hustle. This is crazy. Look at how much I made. And I felt comfortable sharing it because, again, I knew most of my followers. And so when I went into teaching the course, that did really well too. I think at that point I had like 3,000 followers, and I want to say it had like 1,100 people sign up. And that was like in a 3-month span of 1,100 people. And so that was like really dope. And I started to realize a lot of people were, again, DMing me, asking me questions because I was sharing publicly my success. They were just asking simple things like, how did you sell this? How did you get people to buy this? Oh, that post was so good. It's the one that made me want to buy. How did you know how to write that? And it took things that I never really conceptualized, and I had to kind of teach that to them without even, I was like, okay, you know what? Because things do come naturally to me a lot of the time. So I had to go back and see, okay, there was an actual strategy behind this. Why did you decide to do this? Why did you decide to do that? It was a lot of trial and error too. In between the course and the presets, I did a devotional that planked. Could just be the point that it was devotional, but I went hard in like creating my own strategy. At the time, I wasn't even calling it a strategy. Again, I was just, oh no, this is not about to fail. I'm about to do this again and try again.
Right.
And I relaunched it and it did amazing just from trial and error and figure out marketing strategies and things like that. And so from all of that, people are again DMing me, and somebody DM'd me again. I have a lot of conversations in the DMs. Hello, community. Somebody DM'd me again, was like, hey, can we hop on a call and you tell me that, and I'm no stranger of saying no. So she asked me basically, can I hop on a call and give her some tips to sell her presets? And I was like, nah, just the energy, I don't really have to say. And she was like, well, we can schedule it and I'll pay you. And I was like, fine. And at the time, I wasn't thinking about selling my value. I was thinking about literally the time of it. So I was like, let's do an hour for $50. And and I did. That ended up just turning, and I just posted like, oh, I helped so-and-so, and she did it, and she sold out her presets, and then somebody else came for like another digital product, and it turned into shirts, and I was just giving them strategies and really looking at them and saying like, this is sucks, and we could do better, or this is great, this is how we can improve, this is how we can modify. And I was doing $50 calls.
How long did you do them?
Not long. You know me, Miss Lazy over here. I did them, I want to say, for maybe 2 months. Enough for me to have a ton of reviews. And that was another thing that made me realize the value of it, because I had people, and honestly, I won't lie, people were giving me the words before I had them myself. Like, I just felt like I had this anointing and this gift over me, but I didn't really know the words. So people were telling me, oh, she helped me with my marketing strategy. Oh, she helped me build my brand and all of this. And I had major wins. And one of my first few clients, within I want to say 6 months after we launched her course, she had enough money to buy her first home in cash. And this is a $1.2 million home. And she was the first person who was like, you need to raise your prices, because you do realize I paid you $50, right? And we met every week for $50, so $100 every 2 weeks. And so I went into coaching, and from there, it turned into, again, my laziness kicked in after those few months, and I started to do master classes. And I think that is when everything popped off.
Got it. And what was your master class was based on what topic?
The master class was based on growing and selling on Instagram. And again, I do everything, still to this point, I'm doing everything via DMs. So crazy. I had
power in the DMs.
Power in the DMs. And the crazy thing is, I only had 5,000 followers. Only have $5,000. And I think it was just because of how quickly I got there. People were like, what is because at this point, again, I probably was on Instagram for maybe 6 months at this point. 6-7 months. And so, so I do these masterclass, and all I did was, I'm so unprofessional. This is why I tell people to do what they want to do. I put on my story, the eye emojis where you're like looking. Yeah. I put on my story, drop the eye emojis in the DMs. If you want to know how to grow your Instagram, or you want to know how to sell on Instagram. And from there, I had, I want to say 100 and something DMs. And out of those, I took like the first 80 something people. And I just sent them a message back, and I said, a literally generic message, hey, I'm thinking about doing these master classes before I go public with them. I never went public with them because I didn't have to, by the way. I scaled after that. But I was like, before I go public with them, this is what we're going to talk about. We'll meet once only, this week only, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I took groups of 30, and I took them from like 3 p.m. to 4 to 5, 5 to 6, and 6 to 7, back to back. So it was like 120 women, and they all paid, it was between, depending on which group they got in, it was between $99 and $200. And I was like, oh, this is a little money maker here. Right. And I got tired of that too. That lasted 8 weeks. I remember at the 8-week mark, I said, ooh, 2 months done. Y'all tire me out. But then that led to, everything just kept flowing. I will say that when you're operating, I just want to say this in general, when you are operating in your gift, in your calling, in your purpose, I promise you things just flow. You'll get forward and just pushed into the next step and the next, and just continue to be obedient. But after that, at the end of each masterclass, on the Sunday where we met, I would ask, what's one thing you need moving forward? Is there anything I can do to help after this? And I let them know I could probably create a course. And then a lot of people were like, can we just pay for this every single month? And I was like, every month? No, I ain't doing this every month. Because I was thinking just masterclass. And somebody was like, no, we can do maybe a membership. We could just pop in once a week. You can do just drop a class or something. And then that gave birth to my membership, Brown Girl Biz World. And that is my true baby. I love Brown Girl Biz World. I have cut it off because I like things to be small. I like them to be tight-knit. We're almost at 400 members. and we'll close there. I don't want anybody else in there. So I think I'm doing, a group coaching next, maybe. But
Yeah.
I also, in this next season, I really want to get back to how it was when I was doing those presets, where it was 80% passive income. I do love that. And I will say my investments make a nice amount for me to chill, but I also want my business income to be back there. So in the next season, I have already planned, we are cutting back a lot on one-to-ones. I've actually ended them. I took my last 2 clients the other day, and so then we're going back into course mode.
Got it. Now,
Yeah.
there's so much value in that. It's so much value in what you just said. And I love that that's the approach, because I've said that before, even in Clubhouse, right?
Mhm.
Like, if you're first thinking about getting started, just say, hey, I'm thinking about putting on X, Y, or Z. Would you be interested? Before you even create the course. And I got to give a
Yes.
shout out. I learned that from Stu McLaren. Is that where you learned that, or you already kind of knew it? Do you even know who Stu McLaren is?
Okay, I'm not gonna. I always feel every time I do some kind of interview, podcast, talk, I feel so ignorant to the world because again, I am still new to people and social media. I still feel like a social media baby, and luckily,
All good.
I can pick up stuff. I don't know people. I don't even know
It's
it.
all good. Well, yeah, that was the first time that I heard that, and I thought that it was a genius approach. And so to see someone who's put it in action and obviously kept winning with it and still winning with it today, it's been that's been super dope to watch and to know that that's how you got started. And now I want to say, how many followers do you have now on Instagram?
Uh, 50 something. It's either 56 or 58. I flip
Wow.
numbers in my brain.
Have you ever used paid ads? Like, have you ever done anything to try to
No,
scale
and
with
it's
paid ads?
more, no, but that's really just because I am cheap.
Somebody's listening to this right now and saying, "Girl, you're
I am
just like me." Right? I don't want to do no work. 2 months max, 8 weeks. That's my cutoff time. And I don't want to spend no money. But I
not.
want a profitable business.
Look, man, God has blessed me more than I could have imagined. Because when I look at people who have structure to their business, and I'm structured now, but I'm like, man, I really just figured this thing out. Like
Good.
I figured this out, and I did the dang thing with it, and I say that humbly. I'm just proud, but I am considering doing paid ads in this next season. Of course, I said I want to go fully into courses, and I feel like there is a point too that I have seen where you do exhaust your current audience with the products that you have, and so ads are necessary. I just never gave myself that time to exhaust them. I was just like, ooh, this next. I am done launching. I feel for a while. I'm really big on now that I have the structure into place. Now that I have really the results from hundreds of clients and I've looked at their framework and I can put things together, I'm establishing my own signature way of doing things, and I want to bottle that up and sell that consistently versus just one-off coaching and things like that. So you may see my ads popping up one day soon, at least by
Cool.
2022.
No, I'm sure we'll be looking out for them, and then that retargeting is going to be crazy, because it's just the way that you have the aura about you and the authenticity is, girl, I know you was looking at my ads, and I know you want to get the bag.
Now slide in my DM and get the discount code.
No, that's super dope. Now, one thing that I'm curious about is, do you have a team? Because you haven't said anything
I
about a
do.
team
I do
yet.
have a team, but again, I am not the traditional person. I like to give. I definitely like to give props to my team, but I did not have a team until. Has it been? It's been 6 months. It's probably a little bit more than 6 months. I would probably say like 8 months. I've had.
Who
And
was the
by
first person that you hired?
the first person I hired
Like what role?
a virtual assistant, and I found her, and that was just because I was tired one day, I think, and I was just like, oh, this is ridiculous. I'm not answering all these emails. And so I went on Instagram. This is, again, y'all, very untraditional, okay? I'm good at what I do, but sometimes you just don't want to learn from me. I went on Instagram. I scrolled through the hashtag virtual assistant. The first Black woman I saw, I hired her. And she's been with me since. And then so that is, she's really I would say my main team, I have people who come and go. Like I have a go-to graphic designer when I'm doing like flyers for conferences and things like that. I have an event manager who she has become almost I don't want to say personal assistant. She's just dope. I just give her stuff. She does it. And then of course, like I have a go-to copywriter who's dope. But really,
Did you use Instagram to find all of them?
I did.
Instagram loves you.
I'm telling you, look, you need to have your Instagram be searchable. If there's nothing else you do, please have your Instagram be searchable. I found my copywriter by putting in the words personality copywriter because I wanted a copywriter who was not boring, who could sound like me. And boom, I found her. Found my.
I don't even know personality. Where did you get that? Now I'm very versed in copywriting, but I've never heard of personality copywriting.
Well, because I was just sitting there, I was like, so what I did, I actually went on Fiverr first, and I thought I was like doing it big, so I was like, I'm going to get all the expensive ones because they got to be good. And so so what I did is I chose one topic for my email, and I sent it to 5 people, and I asked them all to send me the sample. I didn't give them any direction other than that, than writing an email.
Did you pay them? Or you didn't pay them?
I sent them through Fiverr. So I sent them because I wanted to take them off of Fiverr and work with them. So I sent them the topic. I told them these are the words I typically use. These are things you absolutely can't say. And then I sent it to them, and they were all boring. And I was like, ugh, I was complaining. I was like, God, I need a freaking copywriter that has some personality. Like, can nobody sound like me? And so I go on Instagram, and I was like, let me just type in personality copywriter. And the first line was personality driven copywriter. And so, and then I got on her email list, and I waited a while to see if any of her content made me want to buy. And if she could send me an email that made me want to buy and was fun, then I would work with her. And she did.
So what happens if she wouldn't have had an email list that sent out those emails? Would you still?
No, then I probably would have kept writing myself.
That's a hack right there. You got to get on there. I've never even done that. I mean, I got a couple really good copywriters, but I don't because so many people, they like to do it for other people, but they don't necessarily know how to do for themselves. So that's the only reason why I asked that, because you might come across somebody that feels like they have the gems, but they don't have it themselves.
Well, I mean, I know that's a saying, and people say that a lot. Some of y'all gonna get mad at me, but I low-key feel like that's an excuse. Because if I go to my hairdresser and her hair looks a hot mess, I'm not working with her.
Yo, but some of the best barbers don't. You got to give that though. So, and like barbers in my world, like my barber, he's super dope. He got dreads though. Like you can't tell.
You can keep them for dreads shaped up, make them look keep them nice. You know.
Right.
I'm just saying in general. I feel like if my business weren't thriving, why would anyone want to work with me as a business coach, right? If your captions don't sound good, I need you to have at least some kind of portfolio on your work too, for me to see that that's my thing.
Facts. So if you're going to look at how to grow on Instagram, what's the keyword that you got to search for? If you're looking for somebody that can manage your Instagram, or LinkedIn or whatever, if it's you looking for somebody to take over so you could be autopilot, what keywords are you searching for?
Social media manager. If I'm looking for social media, if I'm doing LinkedIn, which I actually have LinkedIn before, I looked up LinkedIn professional, LinkedIn coach, and LinkedIn manager. And I actually found somebody that was dope. Then I was like, I don't know if I want to do LinkedIn right now. Same for Pinterest. I've done the same thing for Pinterest.
How many platforms do you feel like somebody that's just getting started, how many can they really go after and really try to gain traction and success? Are you like focused on one, get it to 50,000 followers, and then you go to another one? Or is it like, now try your hand at everything and see what sticks, where your audience is, and kind of go from there? I
feel like it takes a platform to grow a platform. I always say 2, but I say that one is that main one. One is that child that you love and you nurture, and the other one is just like a little, I sprinkle some gems when I can, push some people over here, So for me, my baby is Instagram. I would say my side chick, she switches up every now and then. Lately, it's been TikTok. I've gotten a lot of people from TikTok over to Instagram, which was surprising because I honestly thought a lot of people who would be from Instagram would just follow me on TikTok, but a lot of people found me on TikTok first. And And then sometimes Twitter, but that's typically just my rants. So, but I always say have a main and a side. Not in real life, though. Not in real life.
Got to put that disclaimer out there because somebody will definitely slide into the DMs and be
Yeah,
like,
I just told me to do it.
and this got me divorced. Yo, this has been such a phenomenal, and you dropped so many gems, and so many people, I'm sure, off of this. It's like, oh man, I could take that passion. And I could what type of presets can I do? And if they're not sure, obviously they can slide in the DMs, and they're gonna get some type of response. But if they don't come correct, it might be a no if the energy's not good. But stay persistent with it. That's what I learned from it. This is, like I said, just been phenomenal. I guess the last questions that I want to ask you before we wrap this thing up is, one, we haven't talked a lot about reading or like where you get your inspiration from. Are you a big reader or
I
audiobook
am a huge
person?
reader, and I'm so upset because I was like, I don't want to have my stack of books. I literally have a stack of books. I was like, I don't want to have it here in the video, so I threw them all over there. I'm a huge reader. I am a stickler for having a morning routine and a night routine. And so there, I try to read at least typically like 3 to 4 chapters a day from different books. So like just all together, at least 3 to 4 chapters.
And are you choosing different genres to try to keep you balanced, or are you going like what do those books look like? What books are you reading right now?
So right now I'm reading the 22 Immutable Laws of Branding and Marketing. That's 2 separate books. I'm reading The Power of Now, but that's like my 3rd time reading it. It's just so good to me. I love The Power of Now. This one I'm going to look over because I'm trying to remember the name of it. Oh, A Year of Positive Thinking. It's a short read and it's like just a daily reading. I typically how I do it is during the morning, and I just so you know, for anybody who's like me who likes to be all over the place, I get my books on Audible, physical, and digital. I kind of stopped getting most of them on digital because I realized I don't like the blue light from my eyes, but I always get them on Audible and I always get a physical copy. That way I can choose really how I want to read it. Sometimes I'm listening and I got through 4 chapters literally doing my makeup yesterday, listening to 22 Immutable Laws of Branding. And then I come back and I sit down and I choose a book. So in my genres, they differ. Right now, I love anything that has to do with Christ, that has to do with just filling my cup, motivation, and entrepreneurship. But I also realize, I don't want to say this because there's a lot of good stuff to still learn. I realize a lot of books repeat the same stuff.
Right.
So when you read a lot, you realize everybody learn from each other.
Right. Facts. And that's what's crazy. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I got, because when I first got into this real digital marketing world, at least the online world, it was from Russell Brunson. And a lot of people obviously with ClickFunnels and things like that. But he had said something one time and he said, a lot of people will pay more for the same thing just packaged in a different way, which is crazy, right? It's like they're all saying the same thing, but if that packaging is good, it's like, I could charge $100 for this, where everybody else has been charging $30.
It's so funny. That reminds me, I had somebody pay me, and I kid you not, $3,000 for a freebie I had already created. It was a freebie, and that was the first time I realized, man, people really would they will pay for access. And just to hear you say it in a way that makes sense to them. I put out a freebie that was like just basically, how to build, your Instagram, and it was like little tips here and there. And she DM'd me, she was like, literally said, can I pay you to get on the phone and just and teach me this again? And I was like read it to you?
Right.
She was like, no, I kind of want to see, hear you talk about it more and see how I can understand how to just apply it a little bit more to my brand. And I was like, and at the time, I'm not gonna lie, I was like kind of fed up because I was like, wow, not with her, but just with me. I was so busy, and I was like, just threw out a random number. I was like, we could do 2 hours for $3,000. What you want to do? And she said, what's your PayPal? And I said, okay.
Let's get it. I love it. It's crazy. Wow, this is, like I said, been phenomenal. The one question that I always love to ask, and you're so much wiser now than obviously when you first got started back in 2017, 2018. If there was one thing that you wish that you could have implemented sooner to accelerate your path on your dream, what would that one thing be?
would say, and I'll explain this because I feel mean every time I say this. There's so many different things. That's such a good question because I just have 5 things come to mind. If you haven't been able to tell, you guys, I have ADD. So my mind literally bounces. But I would say right now, the thing that I wish I started doing sooner, I don't look at anybody else in my field. And even though I follow them, and sometimes I'll set a reminder if it's somebody that I love to like go support and like their post and comment, but I typically mute everybody. Like if you scroll through my feed, I really only see my best friends. And I do that for 2 reasons. One, because it's so easy to doubt yourself.
And compare.
And compare. Like I'll see so many people just doing dope things. It's not like I'm jealous or anything. It's just like, dang, I should have been posting 3 times a day. Oh, that was such an easy idea. I should have did that. I should have did that. And it leads me to stress and just being all over the place. It led me to not really having a purpose of what my content was supposed to do. I was just doing this, and that, and the third. And it also got me to the point of where I just felt like it's easy to want to replicate things too. Like I found myself, I remember one day the Lord checked me because I have prided myself in, even though I'm sure there's things that I say all the time that maybe someone, like you said, I said something that reminded you of somebody from Clubhouse or whoever you said. I'm sure there's things like that, but I don't want to put myself in a position where I literally have gotten it from somebody else.
Right.
And so that's why like a lot of the books I read, like I said, they're more the motivation and the Christ, because I feel like if I lean on him, he's going to give me everything that I need. And I've done pretty well figuring it out this way. And now I'm just like, oh, maybe I should go to school again. And so I take classes and things like that. But that was my biggest thing. And stop looking to the left and the right. Get help when you need it. Stop waiting on help. You're struggling too long for no reason. That's me speaking to, that was deep. That was me speaking to my past self. Struggling too long for no reason, girl. Why are you doing this to yourself?
Right.
But yeah.
I love it.
I want you to do something too, though. Oh, before your last question, I want you to answer the last 2. What books are you reading, and what's something you wish you knew back then?
Yeah, that was great. So the book that I just finished up with is Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter by 50 Cent. So I'm a huge reader as well. I don't buy both copies. I've just really turned into the digital side because if I got to sit down, I just run so fast. And the audience, whoever's watching, if you're not a newcomer, you know that I run really fast. So the moment I sit down, if I try to read, my eyes is going to close up, right? And then even on top of that, I got 2 young kids under the age of 10. And so if you see, like you'll see that they always keep me moving. So I'm listening all the time. And that book was phenomenal. That's a book that I'm reading. And then I have to check my Audible. I did just buy a couple new books. But that book right there was very powerful. A lot of people wouldn't necessarily think so unless you know who 50 Cent is and you really respect him as a businessman.
As a businessman, 50 Cent is so dope to me. 50, Jay-Z, Nas. Right. They don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So that book right there, I would definitely encourage it. There's been some really powerful books that I have read, like Rocket Fuel, which taught me a lot about who I am. I'm a big business book reader. But that book right there is definitely what I would encourage anybody to read. And I'm excited to read those 22 Laws of Marketing and Branding. I have not read that. And it sounds like something that I would love. But that's a book that I would say. And then as far as one thing that I wish that I would have done sooner, that I would have implemented sooner, I think it is definitely the power of building a team and understanding that there's leverage that can be had. Because I think when we all start off, especially if you didn't come from entrepreneurship, you find yourself being a solopreneur for way too long, right? I got to do it. My clients only want to talk to me. And you don't understand that, like, the power is in leverage. Like, they really just want to have access to you, but at the same time, they want what they want really fast. So what does that mean? If you look in like Amazon, we all want to be able to go to Amazon right away because that's what we have the access to. But at the same time, like, we don't necessarily care how we get our package, right? Just the fact that we get it within 2 days, or otherwise we like, hold on, what's up with my shipping? And so that's what I would say. And it wasn't until, that I really, because I started off, I was doing everything myself. And now I have a team, that helps me with the podcast, with the outreach, and how, that's so powerful. And I think if anybody can understand that, the power in building a team, it builds something, one, that's bigger than you, but it also allows other people to have a hope and a dream that they feel like can come a reality because you set the foundation, and they necessarily didn't have all of the intricacies that you did, and you necessarily didn't have the time to be able to carry out all of the tasks that they could help you with.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
That's good. I love that. I need to.
And so the last question that I have for you is: there's somebody out there that's been listening to this, not me, but I tell you, I'm one of them, that's super inspired by your journey, that loves everything that you've been doing and excited to watch your growth, and they want to do something similar, but they have that little voice in their head, and we've all had it, and that little voice says that they're not strong enough, they're not smart enough, or maybe they just don't have enough resources. What's the one thing that you would leave this person with to get them to just take action?
I would say really, really leaning into the same things that you feel like are keeping you from where you want to be are the same things that are going to get you there. And you really have to lean into that and understand that. I used to feel, truthfully, the word I used to call myself all the time was ignorant. And that's because that's how I felt people felt about me. Because I'm not the person who likes to sit and talk about business with big terms. And I'm also not the person who tries to pretend like I know them. If I'm sitting in a conversation with you and I don't know it, I'm like, okay, can y'all say what you're trying to say? Or can we? And with me being, this little sister in the room, a lot of people like to call me, and bubbly, and also from Alabama with the southern twang, and a lot of people naturally think Alabama is, for some reason, dumber than everybody else. So but I've realized when I stopped trying to change those things, those were the exact things that propelled me forward. When I stopped trying to be like everybody else and Google all these big terms and throw them into my captions and do all this, and when I just said, I don't know it and I don't care to know it right now because I know what I'm doing and I know I get results, and either you're going to work me or not, that is what grew my business. And so I would say, and again, it takes time. It takes therapy and Jesus, in my case, therapy and Jesus, to learn that Jesus really, God made no mistakes. Like when you really sit and think about that, that is so powerful. Because when you understand that he made no mistakes, I mean, everything about you is right. And everything about you is supposed to be used. And just sitting in that just feels so good and so beautiful. But it also allows you to celebrate people more. Right? Like I have amazing people around me. I always tell my friend Nikki Saunders, I feel like she's like so freaking wise. I'm like, how do you even just think of things like that?
Shout out to Nikki.
Yeah, that's not my skill to just like, she just thinks amazing things on the fly. But the old me would have been intimidated by that. And new me is like, wow, I can celebrate that because God just blessed her with so much wisdom. Marty Woodard, he's like an edge snatcher. Like, I'm like, how do you just like short little quotes like that just you say, right. What? I praise him for that. I have my mentor, Glow. Her name's Glow Graphics on Instagram. She is like just the dopest person. When she just talks about race in a way that schools white folks and black. and so I said to say, sitting in what God gave you and understanding is perfect how it is, and understanding how everybody else is perfect how they are, and we all mesh together. And it's not about you. It's not about you. Building a community is not about you. It's a blessing to be able to say that I'm able to be in the space with all these other people who are helping somebody else too. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
That's what I would say. Yeah.
I love it, right? I always say that as well. So I'm glad that you reinforced it. And somebody that's been listening at this for a while, they're going to be like, yeah, I always say your story is not about you, right? And so many people, they have the story, but the glory's in the story, but they don't want to tell it because they think, oh, somebody's not going to like it. It's not about you. It's about somebody else being able to catch on to that and be like, look, I can keep going. I
Yeah.
can keep going.
Yeah.
So I love that. For anybody who wants to stay connected with you, we're going to make sure we put all of the links of everything that you've dropped in the show notes. But how can they find you?
The best way to find me is on Instagram,
In the
ISIS
DM.
BREANNA. You can DM me. Let me tell you, my DM skills are not like they used to be. But I will say, typically, I just do Instagram because my Instagram is a one-stop shop. You can find my text community there. You can find my email list there. You can DM me there. You can find my services. Everything you need is there. So yeah, find me there. I'll be waiting for you.
There it is. Well, just as she said, Dream Nation. Well, first off, let me say, I want to be the first one to, if no one else has told you today, to say you're amazing and thank you.
Thank you.
Remember, Dream Nation, that kind of threw me off guard. I'm like, man, you cannot end the show without saying that. But I want to say to Dream Nation, just as you said, you got to take action and you got to just go all in on who you are, because you have a dream. And as we always say, if you don't take action on that dream that you have will only merely be a fantasy. So make sure that you get out there, you take action, you follow Isis, and you just continue to be who you are and live your purpose and your dream. That's all for this one. We'll catch you on the next one. That's all we got for this episode. Thank you for sticking around. That truly means a lot to me, and hopefully that means that we delivered massive value on this one. If you haven't already, the way that you could say thank you to myself and the team is just by heading over to iTunes and leaving a review and a rating. That's what iTunes loves to see. That's how we get out there even more. And I would definitely be grateful for it. I know the team would as well. Do me a favor and head on over to DREAMNationPodcast.com. That's where you're going to be able to find all of the resources that we talked about in today's episode, as well as more exclusive content. And you'll also be able to sign up to our email list where we have more exclusive content. And we always love to hear the feedback from you all, because you're our tribe. So remember, in the dream we trust. We'll see you on the flip side.